This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Rao, hello, and
Sweetheart, what a lovely introduction on this Tuesday.
That has thrilled women around the world for almost a decade.
On the show
and now
today,
the stage
we
show
have,
based
well,
on the
we're talking
movies
about
is
how to love
touring
ourselves
Australia.
sick,
It's
essentially.
currently
We're going to be talking about how to deal with the pressure to look young and to put that out of our mind and actually enjoy who we are and the way we look and what we see in the mirror as we age. We're also going to be joined by Cyndi Darnell, Sexologist, who's going to be talking about how we can really understand what we like as far as female pleasure is concerned and how we can ask for it. And at the same time, we're going to be speaking with Alison Faulk, who is the co-director and choreographer for Magic Mike. And she's bringing a lot of perspective on what women want, because imagine, Ange, she choreographs a show that is for a room full of women.
I know, with a whole bunch of extremely hot guys. What a terrible job.
I know, but she's all about doing, making a show that's exactly for what women want. So we're going to be doing that.
Absolutely.
And also you're going to be telling us a little bit about what's it like to be the newest Real Housewife of Melbourne. That's coming up in just a second. Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day. So here we are, Ange. It's gorgeous to see you on this Tuesday morning. Before we get started, can I just mention on YouTube, if you could like and subscribe. If you're watching us live on YouTube, like and subscribe. That means you're never going to miss us, and it's going to help us a lot as we get started on this Broad Radio journey. Of course, if you're watching on Facebook, welcome as well, and chuck us a like. That's going to help us as well. Now, Ange, we have an incredible group of women who are a part of Broad Radio, our brilliant broads, I'm going to call you, all with extraordinary different experiences. And you yourself, I mean, for crikey's sake, oh my God, I've never said crikey's sake in my life. I don't know.
I've never heard it before. You heard it here first, people. It is a world first.
I don't know where that came from. You've had two of your own shows on CNN.
Correct. Yes, I hosted the Monday to Friday primetime breakfast live to the planet. And I also had my own weekly celebrity chat show, which I absolutely loved doing. It was just so much fun. And it was like a really fantastic balance of light and shade, because you know, the news can be so depressing at times and very stressful. And, you know, you've got sort of planes falling out of the sky, or terrible natural disasters, or, you know, bombings all over the place. And then to be able to just go and hang out with, you know, insert celebrity name here. And it was a sort of like a half hour, this is your life kind of show. You know, I was very lucky to have both of those for as long as I did, which was 6 years, I think.
Truly amazing, and I now consider myself very lucky to be able to play with you here on Broad Radio.
Yay! I know. So do I.
Yeah, you're a joy, Ange. Now you are, though, to be the latest addition to Real Housewives of Melbourne, which is a really interesting thing to me, because I've got to say I would be terrified to do such a thing. How did this all come about? And
yes.
What are you feeling about it?
Terrified is definitely a good adjective. I think that anybody going into anything in reality TV, if they weren't scared about it, they were either totally kidding themselves or lying. Either one of those two things would have to be the case. But I certainly never thought that I would have, you know, reality TV personality on my resume at all. I thought the most reality TV that I would ever get is the news, which is pretty damn real. But look, we had started shooting it. We were meant to start last March, and then obviously, you know, the world all fell over. So we'll be starting again, I think, in in early March. I think that's the best guess at the moment, but it's definitely still happening. And I'm really looking forward to it because I've, spent some time with the other ladies, and I just think, yes, of course, it's about casting and stuff like that. But I actually think there are going to be some really genuine friendships in there. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I love that you say that, because it feels as though they set up the storylines to create tension and for there to be a real conflict, which of course that's entertaining. But I also think that there can be a lot of camaraderie between the women on that show, surely.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was going into this, that was one of the things that I said. So I said straight off the bat, when I was approached, oh my God, nothing good is going to come from this conversation. And I was just like, no way, because, you're right, Joe. It is all about sort of like, it can be very backstabby and bitchy, and that's not who I am. If you do something to deserve it. Sure, but it's not what it's not what I consider. It's not what I like to sort of watch, and it's not really what I like to do either. But it was sold to me this time as well. The time for that, it did have a time and a place, but that's not what they want the show to be anymore. It is much more about women uplifting each other and supporting each other. Which I'm hoping rates just as well as people going.
Yeah, I really hope that too. I think kindness matters to people these days, so I do hope that rates really well. I'm interested to know about how the storylines come about, because if I was on Real Housewives of Melbourne, my storyline would consist of stack the dishwasher, empty the dishwasher, stack the dishwasher, empty the dishwasher, wash the clothes, fold the clothes. Ooh, and here's a real cliffhanger for you. What's for dinner tonight? Will it be tofu sandwiches again with carrot sticks? That's it.
Delicious.
How do they do the storylines?
Well, it's basically left up to us as, the wives to talk about our own storylines and come up with them. And so when I was approached, what will your storylines be? And my response was, what, you mean my life?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've never had it referred to before as a storyline, but, and obviously I can't say what they will be, but they were certainly interesting enough for the show to take me on. And they've sort of, I know that they think that I'm particularly different to every other Melbourne housewife that's come before for various reasons. But one of them also, and the reason that I sort of went, you know what, I think I am going to do this, is because, a lot of these women, they've sort of married very well, or, that sort of thing. And I don't have a rich husband or a rich ex-husband at all. I'm very much self-made. And, when I moved over to this country 8 years ago and left my marriage and got divorced, I really did start again right from the very beginning, in life in general. And it was really, really, really tough. Working my way back up again to have what I had when I was at, massive networks like CNN. And it was the hardest time of my life for sure. But I did it, it's still a work in progress, obviously, but I think there's definitely space to show people that you can absolutely fall flat on your arse, but it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
I love that. Well, thank you for giving us an insight into Real Housewives of Melbourne, and I can't wait to watch an insight into who you are. I think that actually is what reality TV gives us, I guess. I hope good reality TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, there'll definitely be some drama there going on. Absolutely. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing it as well because, I think it will be a very different season.
Yeah. Talking of TV, did you see that there's going to be a reboot of Sex and the City? That HBO Max.
I did. What's it going to be called again? It's going to be called And Just Like That. So, what Kerrie sort of says, multiple times through the show. And just like that, Miranda, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I just don't know how because it's, Samantha-less.
Yes, there is no Kim Cattrall. Unfortunately, there is no Samantha. So, yeah, it will be quite different. It's true. But I'm going to watch it. Oh,
definitely watch it. Absolutely. If not even just for the fact of how they explain the absence of Samantha. So I know that sort of fans have been putting in their 2 cents about what they think would have happened to Samantha, and apparently the most common one is that she was in some sort of near-death sex accident. I hope they go with that.
I think that's highly likely for Samantha. It's a good guess. I have to say, I'm really interested to re-engage with Carrie Bradshaw and see how she and her girlfriends are navigating being in their 50s. Because from my girlfriends and myself, that's a time in your life when you are kind of exchanging your stilettos for orthotics, you know. And there seems to be a really alarming rate of foot fractures in my friends and around that time. So maybe it's less reboot and more moon boot. Let's see.
Nice, Miss Stanley. But are you in your 50s?
Not yet, no. But most of my friends are. So I'm only a year off being in my 50s.
I know. We're almost there. We are almost there.
Okay,
I know.
so coming up on the show in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with Alison Faulk from Magic Mike. She is the co-director and the choreographer of Magic Mike. Now, the exciting thing is that we have a double pass to give away if you happen to be in Sydney to go and see this incredible live stage show version of Magic Mike. And if you are watching on YouTube and if you like and subscribe, then you could actually win that double pass. So get on there and like and subscribe, and we'll be randomly drawing that prize from the hundreds and thousands of people who now have just instantly liked and subscribed, obviously. If you happen to be
millions, no less.
That's exactly right. So we will be speaking with Alison Faulk in just a moment, just after this. Well, Magic Mike is a phenomenon that has thrilled women around the world for almost a decade, and now the stage show based on the movies is touring Australia. It's currently in Sydney before heading off around the country. It's a spectacle of dance and acrobatics, but how do you create a show that is intended to send women wild? Well, let's ask the co-director and the choreographer, Alison Faulk. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How you guys doing?
Well, we're really well. We love having you in our beautiful country. Can you tell us, how do you create a show for this audience that gives them the thrill that they're after?
Sure. So Channing did a really cool thing when he wanted to create these shows. He hired a bunch of women. So I have a partner, Teresa Espinosa, and then a male partner, Luke Broadlick. And then we have a ton of our production designers are women, our costume designers are women, our aerial choreographers are women, scenic designers are women. So I think you go straight to the source and you ask women what they want. And I'll tell you, we spoke with our friends, we spoke with our families when we were creating the first Las Vegas show. And I'll tell you from our research and then just doing shows, women want everything. They want everything, and they want different things, and everyone changes their minds. And it's fantastic because it gives us a huge opportunity to give them a variety of things in the show. It's not just a one note situation, which we love. You know, we love just understanding more about what people might want. You know, and it's just not guys taking off their shirts. Sometimes that's fantastic, but sometimes women might want a really sweet serenade. Sometimes they might want to see something really funny. Sometimes they might want to see something romantic. Sometimes something super dirty. So, you know, it's always different. So that's what we've learned is women want a lot of things and they change their mind, and we're here for it. We love it. So.
And we're allowed to do all of that. We can want all of it. We can change our minds at the drop of a hat, and we are absolutely deserving of that privilege. Just want to say, Alison, I'm really interested in, you know, how you go about the process of choosing the dancers, because, you know, you're just alluding to it there, that there would have to be so much more to it than just, you know, how they throw naked shapes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to comment on what you said. I totally agree with you. And we celebrate the fact that women should change their mind and should ask for more. And absolutely, that is okay. So I just wanted to say that because I totally agree with you, and we all totally agree with you. So casting for this show is incredibly difficult. We have really incredible casting directors that search the world for these guys. So, you would imagine like, yeah, you need a handsome guy with like a fit body, right? So yeah, that's true. But if you're looking at aesthetics, that's one thing. But then we need like these insanely talented guys that aren't just good at one thing, but they're able to dance, and they're acrobatic, and they're able to climb things, and da, 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 da. And then something to us that's like super, super important is that they're really good human beings. We use the tagline when we cast that guys that love their moms. It's so important that the guys understand that, all of the cast, the women involved too, that they're there to help create a special night for all the women in the audience and the men as well that are watching the show. And they're here to like, kind of like I'm here for you. Like, what can I do for you? Like, what do you want tonight? Do you want to watch me? Do you want to interact with me? Like, what do you want? The guys aren't there to be like worshipped and adored, if that makes any sense. So if the guys have good intentions and they understand what the show is about and that they're there to create this beautiful experience for women, as opposed to, I don't know, kind of like just be like these like really cute guys on display. That is the main goal. Guys with good hearts and good intentions, that's what we want. So if you're cute, if you're like a crazy unicorn professional dancer that can do some special skills like spin on your head and fly through the air, great. You love your mom and your sisters, great. You have good intentions. It's so hard.
And then there's one more, Alison, that I did. I just want to pick up on something that you said, that because you were very clear. I read that you say to the dancers that when they go out there, they actually don't know what's going on in somebody's life, and that they need to find a way to connect with every audience member, sort of based on that. It sounds like they need to be sort of very psychologically aware as well, like unlicensed gyrating sex therapists.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up as well. You really never know what somebody's been going through in their life. Man, it gets so deep. Like, women in the audiences that maybe lost a husband. This is the first time they've been out, or got a divorce, or been going through health issues, or maybe they just needed a fun night out, and maybe they just need to be wild and go crazy. It's very different person to person. And I always tell the guys, like, don't get into a routine where you're like, oh, I know how this woman will react. You don't know how this woman will react, because on the 50th woman that you've interacted with, it'll be a new experience for you that'll be different than the 49 women before that. So it's really important for the guys to keep their eyes open, stay present, and really look at somebody in the eye and engage with them and understand what's going on. It gets so much deeper than you would imagine.
No, I love that. Don't you love that though? Like, so I want to imagine your audience. Is there a particular age that you see and a particular reaction that you see, or?
No, it's amazing. We get women, I think it's 18 here in Australia, and then like literally is, women in their 90s. What I particularly love is we've in many different countries, and here as well, we see 3 generations of women. We'll see like the grandma, the mom, and the granddaughter, which I always love because it's so funny to watch them watch each other. I mean, the reactions vary, but I would say generally it's very joy-filled. I think it's a little different than what people expect. I don't think they're expecting it to be so filled with production value and such talented women and men on stage. And it's super immersive. So it's happening all over the space. So I think people are always kind of excited by that. So, I mean, typically I see really happy, smiling people. And then on the extreme end, we'll hear like people screaming their faces off. They've definitely pre-gamed a little bit, and they've been throwing a couple of times. It's great. They're having a great time, and they're screaming their faces off, and they scream obscenities sometimes, and they'll, some women are like, like just the moment and stuff on stage. And I can never repeat some of the things that women say, but it definitely varies. Sometimes women will be like happy and excited, but just smiling and sitting back, and then I'll let you use your imagination with like how how excited people get on the other end of the spectrum.
But you know what I really love? Firstly, if you've got people up to 90 in the room, what I love is that women that age are given permission to still be in contact with that part of themselves, because as you grow older, I feel like we're told to kind of shut that part of ourselves off, and that's a bit becomes embarrassing or a bit unbecoming, or oh my God, Madonna, put it away. And it's like, why? Like, let us remain sexual beings as long as we want to be.
I fully agree. And I know everyone in our cast and in our creative team fully agrees. Women are women, and people are people, and humans are humans. And if you're alive, and you're there, hopefully you have some sort of interest in what's happening, and something inside you is ignited that night, hopefully. Or, it really can just be whatever you want that night. You can make it what you want, So yeah, I fully agree with you guys. Just celebrating just being a woman is a fantastic thing. And I don't know, we really put forth an effort to be inclusive to every single person that steps in that room, and realize that everybody's there to have a good time. So we really try to do that. And we try to do that.
Saying about sort of, every size, every color,
yes.
every character and age, we're a veritable lady salad. The people that to watch those things. To that end, there was this scene in Magic Mike XXL that has a plus size African American woman getting some very special treatment from a rather gorgeous male stripper without one single ounce of insecurity, and it sort of piqued my interest as to whether that was a conscious thing for you, as to the idea of promoting body positivity and self-acceptance in women, which so many of us lack.
Yes, I think, with the films, obviously we had great casting directors, but in general, it's so important that we celebrate exactly what you're saying. Every woman, every size, every shape, every age, everybody matters. Everybody is valid. Everybody has feelings and emotions, and it's not just about the beautiful model girl that looks a certain way getting attention. That's not what love is about. That's not what joy is about. That's not what sex is about, I don't think, for me. No. I think everybody has feelings, and I don't know, everybody's valid. And the more we celebrate that and normalize that, I think we just help break down those stereotypes.
I love it, Alison. And do you have a goal? Like, is there an impact you want to leave on your audience? Do you want to, I don't know, empower them or give them some sort of sense of self that they might not have had before?
Yes, exactly that. We help women leave feeling empowered. And Chan always says he hopes that they ask themselves, well, what do I want? And gosh, maybe I want some more. Maybe I want more in my life. So he kind of hopes that people leave asking that question without feeling like preached at, but like in this, they have this best night of their lives, and they leave and they're like, gosh, I want this, and they feel okay to ask for that. And they feel a little more courageous, and maybe it unlocks something in them, or confirms something, or I don't know. It's very important to us that it's more than just like this 2 hours of escape, which is fantastic. But if it leaves a little bit of a lasting feeling of like this, like joy-filled, sparkly, like ignited thing in you, whatever that may be, it's different for everybody. That's definitely the goal. Yeah.
Well, can I ask you, Alison, just quickly, in your sort of research for, both of the movies and also the live show, what have you learned about the sexual psyche of women?
Man, so much. We know less about ourselves, I think. I'm generalizing now, of course, but when asking women to tell things, what would you like to see in a show? What are you most excited about? And I think a lot of times they're like, gosh, I really don't know. I've never asked myself that question. And then when we do ask the question, we're like, well, can you give us an answer? It's difficult for them sometimes to even like conceive of the idea that someone's asking them this and they're going to tailor something for them. So I think that I don't want to say women are underserved because I don't believe that to be true, but I just feel that I feel like we're providing a really fun service for people to kind of like get to know themselves and what they might be excited about more. If that makes any sense, in a lighthearted way,
I think it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
And you are, I think for a lot of women, you are opening a dialogue with themselves, which is absolutely critical. So if you want to head along with your grandma and your granddaughter and your aunt and your niece and maybe your nephew as well, I'm sure there's many guys in the audience as well, make sure you head along to Magic Mike, let me get the website right, magicmikelive.com.au and get your tickets because you're currently in Sydney, but you're heading out to Melbourne and Brisbane and Perth, I think, as well.
I think so eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so head along and, maybe ask yourself the question, what is it that you like and want more of? What do you think?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I love it.
Yeah.
And this is funny, but I feel like there's something for everybody as far as like guys when you come to the show. You're going to see every color of the rainbow. You're going to see, you know what I mean? We're very, very, it's important to us that we represent everybody. Like you see somebody that you like up there. So I feel like there's a little bit of something for everybody.
Amazing.
Which is fun. Like all of a sudden see your mom like cheering for somebody. You're like, oh, I didn't know you like that. I'm like, great,
Oh, wow. I would find that very confronting to learn that about my mother, I've got to say.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Even though I would wish for her that she might discover that. I would love that for her. So, I just don't know if I want to be sitting next to her at the time.
Yeah, which is valid. I mean, it's not for everybody to sit there with your family. I mean, but if you do see it, maybe it's a girl's night out, mom's night out, but yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alison Faulk, and thanks for bringing your show to Australia. It sounds super joyful.
Thanks for having us, and we're so excited.
Yeah. Well, as Alison said there, a lot of women know what they want. A lot of women don't know what they want. Some women know what they want, but they don't know how to ask for it. So in just a moment, we're going to be joined by Cyndi Darnell, who is a sexologist and counsellor, who is going to give us some practical tips on how we might be more satisfied in our relationships. That's after this.
In your arena, there's only one race to win. Your own. You never stop, never quit, never look back. You push and test your limits until there are none left. Fuel your performance with INC Dynamic Way to keep you going.
Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis, we've got you covered. Broad Radio.
Well, I have wondered, and if we are in an age where women are more connected with their desire, with what fulfills them sexually, because remember, Sex and the City told us that we could all be Samanthas, that we, even if we outwardly look like Charlotte or Miranda, we can be Samanthas in the sack. But is that true? And what do we do if, as women, we feel like we're not actually fulfilled in our relationships? Well, let's ask someone who knows, who can give us some practical tips. She is a sexologist and a counsellor, amongst many other things. And she joins us from New York. Hello, Cyndi Darnell. Good morning.
Hello. Good evening for me. Good morning to you. It's nice to be here.
Cyndi, you shared with me a really alarming statistic. Can you share with everybody else what that was? It made me really sad.
The statistic is that somewhere between 60 to 90% of women don't have orgasms with heterosexual male partners.
Right. So what that means is if you're in a relationship...
I couldn't relate to that until recently.
I'm only laughing in solidarity, not because it's hilarious. It's actually tragic. So
we're talking about women who are in relationships with men specifically,
very
unfulfilled.
specifically, yeah. Yes. So what we know, the data shows us that basically women who have sex with men are the least sexually satisfied people on the planet. The most sexually satisfied people on the planet are gay men, followed very closely by heterosexual men. And in terms of women, the most sexually satisfied women on the planet are lesbians, with bisexuals following them and heterosexual women, unfortunately, at the bottom of the pile.
I was reading something recently, Cyndi, to that end about how there's been sort of a recent increase in later in life lesbians, and that some people think that, you know, that's down a lot to hormonal changes. But I was thinking maybe it's not just that. Maybe it is finally women going, actually, I've always been like this, and I've always been interested in, you know, bisexuality or other women, but now I'm finally going, why should I be ashamed of it anymore?
Right. I mean, the truth is that we don't really know what causes homosexuality any more than we know what causes heterosexuality. So I think we need to put sort of things into perspective in that way. The decision for women in their, you know, second and third and fourth longer term relationships as they mature to shift from one gender to another may have something to do with hormones, but often it actually just has to do with the fact that human sexuality and human orientations, what we find attractive and what we like, exists on a spectrum. And so what that means is that nobody really is 100% heterosexual or 100% homosexual, that all of us exist somewhere on a spectrum, and that dial turns up and down or slides up and down as we go through life, depending on the circumstances that surround our lives and our freedom, including our access to, you know, to basically just to financial services and healthcare, through to what really turns us on. Because, you know, we know that the reason a lot of heterosexual women stay with heterosexual men is not because they're having great sex. And that's not to say that the relationships are terrible. It's just that often the sexual part of the relationship is not what keeps them there.
Well, I'm wondering if one of the reasons why women, as they get older, perhaps choose to have a female partner is because in their heterosexual relationships, they're sick of doing the lion's share of the domestic work.
Right.
It's very unsexy. I always tell my husband, you know what? Foreplay starts with folding the laundry, my friend.
Right. Well, yes, there is that, but foreplay also starts with actual foreplay.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, if a woman is spending a disproportionate amount of time, you know, managing her husband as if he were another child, I don't think there are many women on the planet who would consider that to be especially sexy. And so then by the time they seek out a sex therapist and say, you know, I don't know what's wrong with my marriage, or I don't know what's wrong with my vagina, sometimes it can be something as tedious as I'm just not treated with respect in the house. I'm treated like a servant, and that doesn't turn me on. So we need to look at this through a lot of different lenses. And I think, you know, the sort of the narrative of women getting turned on by men doing the dishes really underplays how much or how little really we understand about human sexuality and female sexuality in particular, to think that, you know, what women want sexually is just to be considered valuable and to be considered with our pleasure as important as men's pleasure, and it's just not, and that's really a big problem.
You know, Cyndi, I was talking to somebody recently about, you know, the idea of marriage, and I was sort of saying, look, you know, because I got divorced about 8 years ago and have had to sort of reevaluate all of the thoughts that I had about, you know, one man, one woman, forever, the end. Which, of course, now I go, well, you know, marriage was invented when, you know, we died at 17. And I was having a conversation with somebody about that, and it brought us onto the concept of, what's normal and what's not. And he was saying, well, no, it's normal. One man, one woman for the end of time. That is normal, which I thought was highly offensive to anybody perceived as not normal. How do we go about changing that mindset?
Well, we have to think about where the concept, first of all, of normal comes from, and then the second of all, how we frame our relationships, whether we're in relationships with men or women or multiple partners or however we look at it. Up until relatively recently, marriage, let's say, was solely a business contract. Marriage existed between two people, historically always a man and a woman, and it was decided primarily for financial reasons, because up until the 1970s, at a minimum, women couldn't even have bank accounts on their own. So marriage served a very, very functional purpose to allow women means of wealth and land ownership through their husbands. Prior to that, only going back a couple of hundred years, it was about accumulated family wealth, and that's where we have the concept of dowries and the parents of daughters giving away money, take my daughter off my hands and here I'll pay you to do it, because the value of a woman was little more than a cow or a camel. So marriage has always been based in a business transaction, and it's always been about money. About 300 years ago, the French decided that they would try and sort of pitch it together with this concept of romance. And that made it, a whole brand new thing and very exciting. And so things went from being arranged marriages that your families chose potential spouses for you, to you having the opportunity to do it yourself and find somebody who you wanted to marry, who also happened to be often a man of means, which was still really crucial at that time. These days, we are now swiping like we've never swiped before. And our incentives for marriage are a lot less about finances, although not exclusively. There are still a lot of people who are very motivated by finances, but we still tend to have this idea of romantic love, that we have to have this thing, that we have to have a romantic connection to the person that we're married to, which is very, very nice in theory. But for many people who are married, particularly for people who have been married for a long time, they will say, well, I love my partner, but I'm not sure that I'm in love with my partner. And something else kicks in at that point. Now, sex, on the other hand, is a whole other kettle of fish that may or may not be connected to love. And we know that we are able to, and there are different kinds of love. You can have love for your pet and love for your children and love for your grandparents. And these are all kinds of love, but they're not romantic love. And the romantic love is the thing that we tend to latch on to sex. But after about a year or two of romantic love, that inevitably fades. And then we're left with the bare bones of what is supposed to be love. And then we think, well, this is also supposed to be where I get my sexual satisfaction. And the truth about desire for many people is that love and desire, while complementary, I will often describe them as being like chocolate and red wine. They go very nicely together, but you can also enjoy them on their own. And this is something that makes people very uncomfortable, because we want to think I'm going to be in love with the same person that I have the fabulous sex with. And for a lot of people, it doesn't work out that way. And that's not because there's anything wrong with them. If we're going to look at what's normal, the uncomfortable truth is that is actually more normal than the other way around.
So what can we do about it if we want to remain with our partner and perhaps we've been with them for a long time, but we are aware that there is a disjoint between the love and our own fulfillment? What can we do? What are some practical things we can do to open that conversation?
Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge that it's happening. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people. A lot of people are very, very scared to admit that they are having feelings that are as complicated as I don't know the difference between sex and love, which a lot of people don't. And then if they start feeling like I'm not sexually attracted to my partner anymore, they start to interpret that as meaning, well, that must mean I don't love my partner anymore. And that's not true. because love and sex are complementary things, but they're not the same. So the first thing to do is recognize that there's a problem that you're experiencing, and not to freak out about it. Don't panic and think, oh my God, it's over. We need to call the lawyers. You don't. You probably need to call a counselor though, for sure, because this can be really tricky to navigate without professional help and without the help of someone who is especially knowledgeable about the gap between sex and love. So not all relationship counselors are competent in sex therapy, and not all sexologists are competent in relationships. You do need to find someone who is across both. And then from there, you start having conversations about how you want your relationship to be, especially if you're a bit older, your kids are growing up or almost grown up and out the door, and it comes back to you. It's actually a really wonderful time to take stock of what matters and think, well, we've got the next 20, 30, whatever years of our life left together. What kind of relationship do we want to create? And it's actually a wonderful process if you undertake it from a place of curiosity rather than a place of shame and fear. And that takes a certain kind of willingness. It takes a certain kind of open-heartedness. It takes a certain kind of empathy and compassion. But the clients who come to me seeking guidance around those kinds of bigger questions, like how can we create a relationship that is as nourishing as it is fun, are clients who I love to work with, because it really speaks to a certain set of values that are not what we get taught in Sex Ed 101, that are not what they teach us when we're, booking our wedding venue. Instead, it's all like, well, what's your budget, rather than what's in your heart? And that's a question that I'm much more interested in helping couples navigate, of whatever gender orientation, age, is how do you want to create a nourishing relationship that's going to sustain you for as many years as you're willing to put in the work?
I love the notion of fun being a real focus, because why else are you there?
What's the point of
Exactly. Why else are you there?
I see so many couples just struggling and fighting, and I'm just like, remember, this is a choice, people. This is not the 1850s. You have a choice.
But then you worry, but then it all looks very scary. And you just go, okay, I'm definitely not having fun.
So be
but
scared.
I think I'd rather, not have the fun
scared.
than be scared. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%, Cyndi. Be scared.
Be scared, because, scared is just an emotion, and emotions pass. Fun is also an emotion. And so if you're going to feel your feelings, you have to be willing to feel all of them. You don't just pick and choose, I want all these ones, but I don't want those ones. It doesn't work like that. You either have all the feelings or you have none, And I think if you're going to be in a marriage, unless you're having a transactional marriage, which perhaps some people listening are, that's fine. But if you want a marriage that's based on feelings, guess what? You're going to have feelings, and you're going to have to talk about them. And you're going to have to get a little bit real. And yes, it's scary, but you'll be all right. You'll get through it. You'll be fine.
I think too that you, Ange, have really nailed it as well, around the notion that we have to feel that we're worthy of being fulfilled. And this show is all about empowerment. And I guess what we want is to share that sense that to empower you to speak up, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And, I think there's such importance that needs to be attached to experimentation as well, and not to be embarrassed about, trying new things, and just go for it. I did, still here.
And this is the thing, I mean,
look at you,
when we talk about people who don't know what they want, or, and then they say, well, how do we work out what we want? And usually I give them the example to say, well, tell me what your favorite meal is. And they'll say, oh, I like Italian food. And I say, how do you know that you like Italian food? Well, I've eaten it. All right, what kind of Italian food? Well, I've had pasta, and I've had this, that. And they go through all the thing. And then, so they can be very certain that they really like Italian food. And that doesn't mean that they don't like Japanese and they don't like Indian, but just their main preference is Italian food. And so I say to them, okay, so you've got to this point in your life where you're pretty certain that you like Italian food, and you like it because you know, in contrast with all the other things you've tried, this is the one that you like the most. So what is the difference between giving yourself permission to taste all these different kinds of foods and have all of these different kind of flavor experiences, yet when it comes to sex and relationships and creating new options with the partner that you're with, you don't have to go bed hopping, although you can, but you don't have to. You can stick with the partner that you're with. So that I'm not saying that you have to leave, but I am saying if you were to give yourself the same permission to experiment with pleasure that you do when you give yourself to experiment with different kinds of foods that you like, what possibilities might open up for you then? And inevitably, when we start thinking about pleasure through the same lens that we use to think about food, we realize that we tend to give ourselves a lot more permission and a lot wider palate, literally, when we think about food. But when we think about sex and relationships and emotions, we shut ourselves down. And there's only one reason that we do that. There's only one thing that's primarily different between pleasure in a romantic relationship and pleasure in a restaurant, and that's stigma. Going to a restaurant isn't stigmatized. Having a complicated conversation about erotic pleasure is heavily stigmatized, and that's what needs to change.
Oh, well, consider this an encouragement to go forth and taste everything available to you. We're
Yes,
celebrate
eat all
that.
the food. Eat
Eat all
everything.
the
That's
food.
why I moved to New York, because I was hungry. I'm like a very hungry caterpillar. I'm just eating my way through New York.
Oh, Cyndi Darnell, it's a joy to speak with you. We're thinking of you all over there in the States. And thank you so much for spending some time with us on Broad Radio.
You're very welcome.
And we'll be back with more Broad Radio after this.
I'm in a new stratosphere.
And wasn't that a delight to speak with Cyndi Darnell in New York about all things pleasure, which is what we're about, empowering you to make choices that are good for you. And I think Cyndi would support exactly what we're doing with our giveaway at the moment. And before I get to that, I should introduce lovely Kerrie Stanley, who's also on the screen with us there. Hi there, Kerrie.
Hi, Kerrie.
Hello, lovely ladies. Hi.
Oh, it's gorgeous to have you, Kerrie, as a part of our Broad Radio team. I just need to mention, though, that we are running a giveaway that's related to our More to Say survey. So this is a one-question survey that we run every week, our More to Say survey, and it's a way of just getting a sense of our audience's your experiences and your opinions. And for a short time only, we have got a little giveaway attached to that. If you fill in our More to Say survey, one question, you may win a Happy Pack, which is thanks to our friends at Happy Collective. And in that Happy Pack is a pleasure device. So I know that Cyndi would approve of that. It's all about
Certainly she would.
Yeah, looking after yourself. We all approve of that. So let me tell you, actually, in our last two surveys, we discovered that 40% of our audience have had one or two sex toys in their day. 48%. I'm happy to see that. And in the most recent survey, 62%, when we were asking, do you make time for yourself each week? Because the notion is that, you know, in our busy lives, we have to have a work-life balance, but it's not that easy. Well, actually, 62% of audience say they make time for me time every week. Congratulations.
Fantastic
Well
news.
done. Well done.
I'm impressed and I'm happy. I'm happy that's the case. Now, ladies, I was going to raise this with you today. I don't know if you've seen The Undoing, which is on Netflix. It's the series starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. And there's been a lot of talk online about this series, specifically about Nicole Kidman's face. There's been headlines like, an open letter to Nicole Kidman's fillers. Seems nasty.
Right.
Tweets like, enjoying The Undoing, but Nicole Kidman's face is so frozen she looks embalmed. And I did actually really enjoy the story by Monica Dux in The Age recently, which was the heading, it's time to let our Nick act her age, which was really establishing the fact that there's a lot of pressure for women to look young. And it's time we actually saw women age, because as we erase women from our media of a certain age, then those of us who watch feel a little bit like, what is normal? What does an aging face look like? But I want to say, firstly, people are very judgy of Nicole. Don't you think she should be entitled to do whatever she wishes to her face?
Look, I think it just comes down to choice. I mean, that we have to ask ourselves why can't we just observe other people's actions and also look inwards rather than outwards? Very judgy, and sometimes I know I'm capable of it myself, and I have to really check myself to go, why am I reacting to what they're doing, and why are they doing it? That's the question. Where's this all come from?
Yes, well, exactly.
It's not you.
But it's about, what is the voice in their head? Or put it in context with Nicole, this is her career, right? So she obviously, if she has had work done to her face, there's a choice in and around whether or not she's able to continue working, knowing that perhaps she's had peers who have aged and they've seen their career kind of disappear as a woman.
Yeah, I mean, she's never sort of confirmed or denied anything to my knowledge, but even so, like, why should anybody be ashamed to, get a little surgical something? I don't see, why anybody would go, oh, gosh, I couldn't possibly admit that. Just do it. You do whatever you want.
I think it just comes down to that. But when we're seeing it, Joe and I, we were chatting about this during the week about from the what we're seeing on our screens. That we are programmed from a very young age. It's coming down from Hollywood, and that's nothing new. I mean, do you remember hearing the terms of, putting Vaseline over the lenses? Face filtering has been going on since cinematic history to make women look softer and prettier and better. And by God, that's got to change. That's time for that to move on. So now it's just like the digitization of Nicole's face. It's just like photoshopping's just gotten easier. God, we've got Facetune on our phones. It's the technology is caught up and making it easier to erase everything.
Yes.
I remember watching, the Queen recently, and there was some sort of online criticism about, Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays the main character, an absolutely amazing woman. There was one scene where she was having a meltdown, and there was all this backlash that she was looking too pretty while she was doing it. So it's like, so wait, you're too good looking to have a meltdown, but then if you're Nicole Kidman, then you get backlash because your face looks like this. And for God's sake, can't people just sit there and go, you're doing an amazing job, you're a fantastic professional, good on you?
I absolutely agree with what you're saying there, Ange, but also, Kerrie, when you talk about the history of changing women's opinions of themselves effectively, that's what is happening, that we get told as we age and we look in the mirror, it's not okay to look how we look, right? Now, I'm a bit conflicted because I look at Nicole and I think she looks kind of beautiful. It's no doubt that she maybe looks a lot younger than her years. I actually don't even know how old she is. I think the thing is that she's about the same age as Hugh Grant, and Hugh Grant has been given permission to age, and maybe she hasn't.
Yep.
But do you know what? I don't like looking at myself on the screen. I don't like looking at how I have changed over the years. And so I have got that voice in my head telling me that somehow I should look younger and do what it takes, or I don't really know what to do about it. I can't really change, but it hurts me that I have the voice and I don't know how to get rid of it sometimes.
Well, that just comes, that's the programmed voice that has come down, as I said, throughout time. And now that it takes a lot of self-work to deprogram. I keep using that word, and I thank my partner Lexi for kind of helping me voice this. It's deprogramming those words. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. You can put on all the creams and have all the fillers in the world, but if you're not aging gracefully mentally, you're going to be stuck in a real rut about this. And I think so it's just time to, to stop and take mental check on yourself as to go, and I say you as in we are, I'm certainly a part of this conversation as well, to go, look, why am I feeling this way? Okay, let's just have a work on that rather than, okay, I'm going to buy a $200 cream and hopefully that's going to fix the situation, which, hey, your skin might look nice, but your voices in your head will still be pretty loud.
Yes. Interestingly, I have found mindfulness to be a very big part of this process for me, that I've been able to train myself to hear that voice, see the voice, recognize that voice, not attach myself to the voice, and replace it with gratitude. Because aren't we lucky?
That's fantastic. God, that's a real gift, Ms. Stanley. I can only aspire to one day be where you are in my head. But, of course, we see things that, displease us that nobody else would ever notice. And when you sort of point out and go, like, I've found a new fold here, right there, and I can see it. And I've seen it for the last 2 months. And sometimes I'm in the car and it's like, are you still there? Oh my God, it's still there. And I mentioned this to my partner the other day, and he was like, what are you talking about? There's nothing there. But to me, oh, it's there. It's there. And I'm thinking, how do I get rid of this? Do I go get some fillers? Do I go get surgery? Because I know you're there. Like I can see it right now.
Interesting. Can I bring this? Ask you a question. Well, that kind of comes to mind is that this language that we are finding ourselves talking about as well. It's an anti-aging battle. We have to fight the anti-aging. We've got this line. I've got to fight that. Wow, that's really aggressive. Why do we have to fight anything? Why can't we we can embrace it? Or Angela, if you want to do something about it, great. Do some research, find out how it is. As long as you feel good about it, it's your choice. Bam, go get it done, sister.
Deal. I'll be running down the surgeon right after this.
But I think that's a really beautiful point, Kerrie, that we even have to question our language and that it sneaks in. It's very subversive, and suddenly, yes, we've got to fight rather than embrace and glorify and celebrate and go, oh, look at that. Look what's happening to me as I move through my years. What a blessing it is that I get this. Now, Kerrie, you are a makeup artist, and so you are coming face to face.
Yes.
But you're working with lots of different kinds of faces of different ages and shapes and textures every day. What can you tell us as women when we look in the mirror and maybe don't like what we see? What can you tell us as a makeup artist? What changes and what's gorgeous about an aging face?
Look, it's really interesting. Like we physiologically, we can't help the fact that when we go through perimenopause and menopause, our skin changes drastically. We don't produce a collagen like we used to, and we can't keep up with it. So it's either we have to embrace where we're headed, and that's absolutely fine because it's inevitable, but what can we do about it? And that's again about educating ourselves about what we can do to make ourselves the best possible way we can be. Now, the constant conversation that I have with a lot of women that sit in my chair is the negative self-talk. That is the first and foremost thing to kind of get on top of. Like, oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this. And that's so common. So it's let's just stop this right there. Okay, well, let's bring out what makes you feel best. It's like wearing your favorite outfit because you feel good no matter, what your shape or size is. What we can do, okay, first and foremost, the number one key to having great skin, because it covers all of us, but let's have a look at our face, is sunblock. We have to wear sunblock, peoples. That is number one. That will help combat. There's that word, combat. Yes. I just picked myself up on that. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, I have to think of another one there. See, it's just, thank you. Like that's just, that subliminal program is just there. What also just came to mind quickly is like the cosmetic industry is currently like a $17 billion industry, and that's just products. That's not talking about invasive or evasive surgery as well. So it's a huge industry, and we're constantly saying anti-aging, fight the battle. So there we go. So it's an easy mistake. I'm correcting myself, but it's a part of all of us. So what can we do? Okay, good things to look after our skin. A couple of things, to help us. Make us feel good, make our skin glow and feel lovely. You don't have to spend $1 million. There's lots of, that's a whole other conversation about what products we can go down. But sunblock is your number one. Don't smoke. That's your next one. That's a really big one. What else can we do? Sugar, which I didn't actually know this. I recently read a great skincare book. It was part of my summer reading. I'm really getting into it now. But sugar is not great for collagen.
Really?
At all. It actually, I did not know that. So look at your sugar intake. I need to look. I'm such a sweet tooth. I'm terrible. I love it. So I have to look at that for many reasons. Now vanity is going to take over. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop it for my skin. But there's many things, you can go down that path. And I think if you're really unsure, start with your skin first before you head into makeup. If your skin isn't feeling or looking great, makeup will just sit on top of it and not look good. Also, there's lots of education out there now. You can if you're going to go down the YouTubers, like it's going to be a little bit funny, isn't it? But if you go down that YouTube direction, find a clip of someone who is age appropriate, can tell you from experience, and someone who's in their 40s or 50s can teach you how to change your makeup. Because a lot of the times what I'm finding too when I'm looking after women of my age, this age, is that they've been doing the same thing since they were 20. Oh, and of course our face shape changes. I know even with myself, my own experience, my eye shape has changed, my jawline has changed, and this is learning how to roll with that and work with changing my techniques to bring out the best. Yeah. That's kind of the start.
Fantastic tips there, Kerrie. Thank you so much. And we would love you to continue this conversation. Give us a comment on Facebook or YouTube, or you can tweet us as well at Broad Radio.
Absolutely.
Oz. We would love to know, how are you feeling about the way you look? Do you feel like there's a pressure to look young, or have you just totally embraced parts of you that you just go, you know what, I have to say, oh my gosh, in your 20s you were hypercritical, and now as you get older you're just like, oh, you know what? That's who I am. And I'm actually much happier in my skin the older you get. Would you agree, ladies?
Absolutely.
I would, for sure.
I was going to say, when I was 40, I was completely frozen with Botox, like frozen, like Brie Vanderkamp from Melrose Place, for those of you who remember that show.
Oh, no.
I really was. I'll have to dig up a photo and post it because I was shiny and flat.
Which we don't judge you for. We do not.
No,
absolutely
we don't.
Not.
We embrace
absolutely
you for
not.
it.
Yes.
Not anymore. I like to have expression, you see.
Yes, and we love your expression. So thank you so much, Anjali Rao and Kerrie Stanley, for joining us on Broad Radio today.
Pleasure.
My name's Jo Stanley. Do continue the conversation on Facebook and YouTube. We do still encourage you to like and subscribe on YouTube, because you may win that double pass if you're in Sydney to go and see Magic Mike. And thank you so much, particularly, we got a comment that I've lost it. It's moved up my screen. But I believe it was someone on YouTube saying that there should be a Broad Radio outing to Magic Mike. That could be so fun. I might have to plan something like that when it comes to Melbourne. Stand by for that. Meanwhile, do continue your conversation with us on Facebook and YouTube and broadradio.com.au as well. Make sure you subscribe to our website and you'll hear all about everything that's going on with Broad Radio. Thanks so much, guys. You take care, and we'll see you all at 9 a.m. next Tuesday.
Bye.